We are living in a world where consumer behavior is rapidly changing. New trends, new offerings evolve. It is increasingly important to therefore relook at our financial decisions, how we manage our finances. Being financially literate helps in making a prudent and sound decision. The sooner financial literacy is ingrained in our minds, the better it is for us. Unfortunately, in most cases, because financial literacy is not a part of our curriculum when we grew up, we struggle with this much into our adulthoods. Simple things like understanding how to do our taxes or balancing our checkbooks or even good spend, bad spend become tedious because no one has helped us understand the basics earlier. Thus, we will be addressing the topic of financial literacy, which is also a national priority now in India, in our podcast, Financially Speaking, Conversations by India First. Welcome, Ilika and Minakshi. May I request you to maybe give your own introductions with a little bit of a background? Can we start with you, Minakshi?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Hi, my name is Minakshi Todi, and I'm the founder of the Finance Box. I never imagined I would be a teacher, nor did I ever think I would be into financial literacy. As a college student, I've done my Inter CA, I've done my MSc in Finance from London. I used to work in investment banking, so I was an investment banker with JP Morgan in London for about 3 years. I quit my job in search of something bigger, better, something more personal, and somehow I ended up in the field of financial teaching. I'm a professor at ISMI School of Management and Entrepreneurship, where I teach undergraduate and postgraduate finance. And with the pandemic upon us, I realized that finance is something we all deal with in our daily lives without even realizing we do. We interact with finance whenever we make a small decision, as small as even what fruit we're eating and where we're buying it from. With the pandemic, the need for financial education has become so important and so strong. This is why I started the Finance Box. So the Finance Box was started to provide financial literacy to those who needed it, who were not from a financial background. And now that's become, in a way, my life's purpose.
Thank you so much, Minakshi. Ilika, what do you? Please introduce yourself.
So I am basically a student at the moment. I'm doing my CA final. I just gave my exams. I started with my page called Get Going With It because I realized over the years when I was working, all my friends, my peers, they were literally asking me the most basic questions, rudimentary questions. And I was just like, are you sure you don't know about these basic things as basic as ITR filing, right? Where people were like, refund nahi aa raha hai, or we're not getting anything. And I was just like, you know what? I think this is not limited to you. And of course, during the pandemic, I saw my own personal friends, my personal family friends, relatives going through a little bit of a hardship. And I realized people really need to start realizing how and when finances should start. So I just started with a page, and it was sort of a get going with it only, literally, because whatever I was learning, I was putting it out there, and I realized these basic information was actually something new to a lot of people. And I realized even other people were giving out information, helping me out while on the way. And this just made me feel like this is a bigger community where we can sort of give and take. And that would just help out everyone in the process. So that's where my sort of motivation came from.
So that brings me to the question, what do you really would you care to explain what is financial literacy in a layman's language? What does it mean to you, Ilika?
So basically, when a lot of people ask me this, they probably think it's a lot of tech words, analysis, all of that going on. But it's just the simple things. It's literally managing your expenses with your income, putting it down. And it's if you really want to get into financial literacy for one personal lead, it just goes down to personal finances and how you manage them. So if we stick to the basic terms, budgeting, expenses, income, figuring it out, where you get your debt from, where you should spread your credit to, I think that is it. You don't have to really dive too deep into it and sort of learn a plethora of information because it's out there that, oh my god, technical analysis, short term trading. No, it's basic information that you need to be aware about so that you can manage your own expenses. You can manage your income and you can sort of have an emergency fund probably, or you don't have to think 10 times before getting your basic needs. So I think for a layman, that is it. You should be a little aware about these little facts.
Yeah, I think that puts it into a perspective. How early should we start, and what is there an indication when one should start really? Meenakshi, any thoughts that you have on that?
Absolutely. I'd like to share a small story of when I was 5 years old. So, as kids in an Indian family, typically on birthdays, on Diwali, you get a small envelope and it'll have, a little bit of money. And these are the gifts you get on your birthdays on Diwali. So, as a child, also, we would get, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, you're getting these envelopes and you're feeling really happy. You got money, you're putting it in your piggy bank. So my mother one day she made me open my piggy bank. So we opened my piggy bank and I had a big treasure. I had about 2000 and maybe 300 odd rupees. And for a 5-6-year-old, that's like treasure, so much money. And she took me to the post office. And I remember this distinctly because I was so annoyed. She told me, okay, give this money to this uncle. And I said, why? She said, no, you give it to him. And after 7 years, when you get it back, you will get double. And me as a young child, I'm like, but I don't want to give my money away. I want to go shopping, take me to souvenirs. I want to buy some toys with it. And that was my very first experience, I would say, investing because my mother believed a lot in these Kisan Vikas Patras. So when we were young, our piggy bank money would go into a Kisan Vikas Patra. And by the time I was, 11, 12, 13, I got it back. By then, I'd even forgotten I had made that investment. So the 13-year-old in me was so happy to receive, that now double the sum of money back at double the rate of what I had put it in. So for me, that was one of the earliest lessons I had in terms of financial planning or money management. And I do believe that when you're younger, the thoughts, values, experiences that you face, that you experience, they stay with you for life.
I think it's a great example and so close to all of our hearts that we've all received this money and we've spent it while had we saved it like Meenakshi did, all of us would have been far better off financially, I guess. Absolutely what you said, starting early and then going into the financial literacy brings me to Ilika. Ilika, do you think starting that early is good? I mean, do you think it should be indoctrinated into the school curriculum and how do you think parents would play a role in school children's financial literacy?
So interestingly, Shubhankar, the same thing happened with me when I was 4 or 5 years old. I had my Rakhi money and it was 1,000 rupees. I remember because 1,000 was a big milestone for me, and I was like, "Papa, look at this! I have 1,000 rupees with me today." And he's like, "Oh my God, I'm really proud of you, this and that." He's like, "You know what? Give it to me." I was like, "Excuse me?" He's like, "Give it to me. In 2 months, I'll give you 1,500." And I'm just looking at him and I contemplated for a second. For contemplating for a 5-year-old, you know, to realize 500 tomorrow or 1,000 today, I was just like, you know what? Yeah, he pushed me a little bit and I gave it to him. And I think that was like the seed. That was the seed subconsciously which was given to me by my parent. And as Meenakshi said, it's not about putting it directly out there that, oh my God, study this or study that or learn this. No, it's those little things like my parents used to play Monopoly with me a lot. So I learned so much. I was so competitive. I was like, my money, my expenses, my hotel. So that sort of inculcated with me. And as a parent, I think they did really well by doing these little things where I was also involved and I was interested. Another thing was my dad used to come back from like different countries, so he used to get me like coins and foreign currencies. So I used to like sort of stack them up, and I used to like see ki kitna rupee hai. So that was all games for me, but it was actually subconsciously adding to my value system of finances. All of that came because of the kind of childhood my parents gave me, and not in terms of directly putting it out there that what are finance or whatever. It was just small little things that stood by me and made me make certain moves down the years. So as Meenakshi said that, all of a sudden after when you're 30 years, you can't expect someone to save 50 rupees out of the 100. So that. And apart from that, I think schools in general now have become a little proactive in terms of inculcating finances and financial perspective. And it's really important because the kind of extracurricular activity that they provide there, it sort of forces children to think out of the box, think through a financial box, as Meenakshi's firm. And I think it's pretty important because two things that I always say to people who come, younger kids, of course, I am a kid too, but younger kids who come to me and they ask me, I tell them that finances, taxes, and law, these are three things everyone should know. And it should be taught to kids at school in some form, if not through theoretically, if not theoretically, through maybe moots or practical activities or something. So I think it is important, and thankfully in India they have started doing that. So we're good to go, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful thing you've brought out, the role of parents in particularly through through games to get people into. So financial literacy is such a such an important thing that's coming out, and there's so many ways that we could have, and we do introduce it at early age. But a lot of people still struggle, I guess, because of the formal structure perhaps not being there as yet in mass. Um, I think insurance is another aspect. It's close to my heart. It's close to, I think, all of us in IndiaFirst Life. I think that's even further. Financial literacy, and then a part of that being insurance literacy and insurance weaving into a plan. What are your thoughts, Meenakshi, now that you talk to students, you have this company, and you sort of spread awareness? How do you think insurance weaves into a part of being a financial plan?
So, most people, when they think about financial planning or personal finance, they only think about investments. They think that, okay, this is how I have to multiply my money, and that is my role of my financial plan. And this is a very big misconception. What people don't realize is a financial plan starts the minute you have hopes and dreams. If I wish to travel the world, I wish to go abroad, I wish to, study abroad, I wish to get married, I wish to provide for my kids, all of these wishes are ultimately our financial goals. And our financial plan has to be built to meet these financial goals. So, your first step is not investing, but rather identifying your goals, understanding where you stand in terms of your savings, your expense, your spending, your budgeting, then making sure you have some kind of protection. And that's where insurance comes in. Imagine we work really hard, we collect a lot of money, and then the pandemic strikes, some disaster strikes. And at one shot, you've lost everything you've saved because a medical expense has come up, an unforeseen accident has come up. I think the awareness around insurance is very little. If you all have seen the movie Oh My God, where we have Paresh Rawal and Akshay Kumar, he was so sure he had insurance and he was going to be fine. But no one read that policy and saw that act of God is excluded. So while a lot of people in India may have insurance, they really don't know how it works or what it covers. So education around that, around the various things you should have, like everyone should have a health policy, be it a Mediclaim, be it a health guard, be it a healthwise, or a life insurance, or even sometimes your property, your household goods, valuables that you keep at home from fire and things like that. People tend to not have this. They focus on investing versus insurance, where insurance is the first step. The second step is emergency planning. The third step is debt reduction. And then the fourth step is investing. Insurance plays a very important role. Literacy around it needs to improve. But kids need to start becoming friendly with these terms. So when they become adults, they're not scared of it.
I think very, very valid points. And the four steps that you said are so true. I mean, we really don't most of the times think so structured. We we think of the objective and not about how to get there. We just think somehow we want the money, we want to put it in some place where I will have this money, and I don't even really plan the returns or the risks around it. So, Meenakshi, moving from you to Ilika on the same note. So, Ilika, you planned a trip abroad, and you save for it. Did you really plan how much returns you need, or did you just save it at home? Was there any insurance or risk aversion built in? What was your plan?
So basically, thankfully, because I was already introduced to the idea of stocks before I started this plan, I had this in mind that you could, do a short-term sort of trading and figure out some returns. And thankfully, I was not banking on just FDs. So of course, it was minuscule savings, monthly savings, and whatever I was saving, it was going into SIPs, it was going into equity, whatever I was following at that moment. And of course, there were returns. And just the school of thought where I had to plan, as Minakshi said, because I had to meet certain objectives that I had in mind, I had to plan first. I had to literally, I forecasted what kind of sources of money I'm going to get in, how much do I have to save, how much do I have to cut down from my socializing, because that was the only expense I had that time, right? And or if not, what could I sort of use other than what I was already using? So there were a lot of steps right before investing. I had to see my objective. I had to put a plan down, put pointers down. I had to see what sort of asset was giving me the kind of return I wanted. And again, thankfully, I knew about it. That's why I could do that. Other people, they usually do not understand the idea of insurance as an asset also, as something which can give you return, because a lot of people just think that insurance is honestly just something that would be given to you once maybe a life goes away or medical expense or whatever, but it is also an asset which provides you with returns. A lot of people don't know about that. Because of all of that planning, understanding, and the awareness that I had about these things, I put those plans down, pointers down, and I sort of just rolled with it. And thankfully, they were good returns, and I managed my trip. I didn't have any debt reduction, but it all went good. So, yeah.
Very valid point about insurance being also an instrument of saving.
Yeah.
That's it's frequently forgotten, and awareness is very, very low. And you know what? I remember we used to, as I said, we used to work in a bank, and we used to sell a lot of mutual funds also. And we used to tell people long back, and it's so true, the power of compounding. And we used to tell them that if you save 500 rupees a month, you start early. The moment you get a job, you start saving that much. And by the time you retire, that will give you so much more. So let's say 500 rupee every month if you can save, even if you get 6% return. And in those days, 6% was very low. I mean, we used to have returns of 12, 13, 14% also. Now 6% is more a reality. So I think, yes, you brought it out very well that, insurance should be a part of the planning in even savings and investments, and not just version perhaps.
And
Uh,
adding to that, you get your tax benefits every year. So that is a win-win.
Absolutely, it's so much more efficient.
Yes,
And then if there is something which goes wrong, then you have the risk coverage. Uh,
exactly.
yes,
I
brings me to
can
the yeah, please.
I can give a small example because I'm a teacher in a college. My first year students, after learning about, investing, insurance, financial plans, they came to me and said, Miss, every month I get a lot of pocket money. I don't end up spending all of it. Do you think I should start an SIP? And here I have an 18-year-old standing before me saying, Miss, should I start an SIP? I said, you must. And when you turn 30, please find me and take me out because, you're going to be very rich by then and you're going to have a choice of whether you want to work or whether you want to start a business because you will have a capital pool accumulated by 30 if you're starting an SIP today. So youngsters are becoming more aware.
Great. Good to know that, Minakshi. So, Minakshi, my final question to you really on this. We've seen that, we've understood that it's so important. The government also is making a lot of effort, and particularly formally as an insurance company. So, the government really has these four finance arms of the government: the RBI, which is for the banks regulation, IRDAI, which is for insurance companies regulations, the SEBI for mutual funds, and PFRDA, which manages all the retirement. So the government is really trying to promote financial inclusion and financial literacy. There's a lot of things happening. There's a national financial education forum. There's an NSFE, which they call it. It's got a 5-year plan. There's a lot of things that they're doing. Companies like us, we are being asked to do a lot of programs to promote financial. But let me come back to, so these are all going on at the background, right? So what do you think for the lack of financial literacy? What do you think are the impacts on society, on families, if we don't have this, or if we continue to have lack of financial literacy? How do you see the impact at retail levels, individual levels, or society as a whole in India?
If I may, so if people are not financially literate, it leads to a lot of fear and mistrust. Even when your banker is trying to tell you invest in equity or buy this mutual fund, you're automatically likely to think ki loss ho jayega. You're not very trusting, you're very fearful, and you live life with that fear that what if something goes wrong, because you've never really tried to educate yourself or understand how to prevent that. So that is the first thing that as an individual you will deal with, fear and insecurity. As a family, it becomes harder to achieve your goals. A lot of times you may be able to afford something, but because lack of financial knowledge is preventing you from seeing how to get there. A lot of dreams may not be met, and a lot of life goals may not be met. You're looking to buy a BMW, but you end up with a Honda because you don't know how to get to that BMW. As a society, as a country, we will progress definitely a lot more. Our Sensex has already now touched 55,000. They're saying it's on its way to 60,000. What is pushing it up? Financially literate people now entering the market, investment and money flowing into that market. As a country, how are you going to progress if its people know the value of that money and how to grow that money?
Yeah, I think that's really the consequence. The positive part of it that we are seeing now with money flowing in and more structured investments, and formally as a corporate, we also see the results of many of the efforts that we are taking. Ilika, any parting thoughts on do you see that the improvements that efforts to improve financial literacy at your level, friends level, how is it impacting? Are people getting more financially literate?
People definitely are, because they're more intrigued, they're more inquisitive about everything. And in general, since the pandemic has hit, social media is booming like anything. So many people, so many creators are on different platforms giving out information that no one knew before. And because of that, a lot of people, youth, millennials, and Gen Z in general, are moving towards it. Their kids, as you said, 18-year-olds asking SIPs. I didn't even know SIPs existed at 18-year-old. And I think this is just a very beautiful concept to get, like, how the community is going ahead and bringing everyone together, because when these kids are being aware, they're in direction, sort of telling their parents. For example, my mother, she had zero clue about equity or crypto or anything. And then here I am telling her, do this, do that, invest here, invest there, whatever. Whatever extra money you have, give it to me. I'll put in SIP. And then she'll get a little bit inquisitive. Okay, so what is crypto? And then I'll explain it to her. For that matter, my father, he is a CA. He did not know about crypto. So me coming to him and telling him, this is it. You have to try. Again, as Minakshi said, people are fearful. They're fearful about anything that they don't know about. So people have to become aware, and people are. And honestly, Government of India is actually giving out a lot of things, notifications, official statements, where there are things which are under the pipeline and which are already being sort of done. So I think we're going on the right path, and together we'll do it. We'll manage it somehow.
I think that sums it up. Thank you so much for joining us and in this discussion, particularly on financial literacy. Thank you, Minakshi. Thank you, Ilika, and we look forward to your continued endeavor in spreading financial literacy across. As a company, we are committed to it as well. Had a better understanding of how financial literacy as a topic is so much more needed, and not just needed as an awareness for grown-ups, but to start early. Add it to our school systems, in our education systems, so that our children learn of it right from their school age. They can discuss, they can understand how to do it better. If you have any thoughts on today's episode, please let us know. Please share about it and stay tuned next time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Subhankar.